Okay, so distributed ledger. We've all heard that term, right? It brings up this amazing picture of a shared public book that everyone holds, making everything transparent and fair. But what if I told you that whole picture is basically a myth? What if the ledger everyone's talking about is one that almost nobody actually sees? Because, the truth is way more fascinating than the marketing slogan. So let's just dive right in. Let's get to the heart of this illusion. You're about to see that how these systems really work is often profoundly different from what we hear every day. And this quote from the analyst Frank just lays it out there so bluntly. He says, a small core of full nodes, and then this massive halo of users who don't verify. I mean, come on, that's not what most of us picture when we hear the term distributed ledger, is it? And that's the central disconnect we're going to unpack. So that begs the question, right? If that structure he just described is the reality, then what on earth is a distributed ledger? What are we really talking about here? And here's the simple, almost poetic truth of it all. It's a ledger that everyone talks about, but that pretty much no one actually sees. For like 99.9% of people, using a blockchain does not mean you're holding or checking the entire history yourself. Not even close. So, how did we end up here? To get that, we kind of have to go back and deconstruct that original myth. Why did this huge gap open up between this grand idea and the practical reality? The dream, it was beautiful, right? This almost utopian vision where every single node would be equal, every participant would be totally sovereign, and every transaction is just perfectly mirrored everywhere all at once. It's a really powerful vision of total decentralization. But, well, that dream hit a brick wall, and that brick wall was reality. What we actually ended up with is a ledger that's guarded by a select few, and then just sort of sampled by the many. The dream of everyone participating gave way to something way more practical and way more specialized. And this is a great breakdown of how that happened. In the super early days, the ledger was tiny. Anyone with a decent laptop could download it and run a node, no problem. But then it grew, and it got big. Suddenly, storage and bandwidth became a massive headache. So what happened? The network naturally specialized. You've got your archivists, the ones running the full nodes, and then you got your observers, which, let's be honest, is most of us, using light clients and basically trusting those archivists. And this specialization leads us to maybe the single most important point of this entire explainer. To understand how these networks are really structured, you have to realize it's about power, not about participation. So here's what the real structure looks like. At the very center, the core, you have this tiny number of full nodes. They check everything. Then around them, you've got a layer of infrastructure, your wallets, your exchanges, that kind of thing. And then way out on the edge is this massive halo of users. That's us. We aren't really trustless, we're trust minimizing. We're still trusting someone, just a much smaller, more verifiable group at the core. So this is the key design choice you have to get. The goal was always to distribute authority, so no single company or person can control the rules. The myth was that this required distributing participation, the idea that everyone had to keep a copy. The first one is the reality. The second one, well, that's the myth. And this is a super important nuance. The system we have is concentrated, but it's not centralized. See the difference? Centralized means there's one single kill switch, one point of failure. Concentrated just means power is in the hands of a few independent groups. And the key is their alignment isn't guaranteed. They could disagree with each other. That's a feature, not a bug. Okay, so if most of us aren't verifying the whole ledger, then who is? And more importantly, why would they even bother? This is where the human element gets really, really interesting. They're called the paranoia minority, and you can think of them as the network's immune system. It's this small, super dedicated group of users who voluntarily take on the cost and hassle of running a full node. And they don't do it for profit. They do it as a public good, just to keep the whole system honest for the rest of us. And this leads to a really mind-bending idea. Decentralization isn't just some static, technical property you can check off a list. It's a behavioral equilibrium. The entire security of the network depends on the continued existence and actions of this small, motivated, paranoid minority. But there is a powerful force that's constantly working against the efforts of this minority, a force that's always trying to drag these systems back into the centralized world they were designed to escape from in the first place. And that force is convenience. It's just the easy way. And it's a slippery slope, right? First, we choose the easy-to-use wallets that don't make us run a node. Then the apps we love start using third-party services to connect to the blockchain. And before you know it, most of the actual economic activity is happening on big, centralized exchanges. Look, every single one of those steps makes our lives easier. And that's absolutely essential for getting people to actually use this stuff. But here's the key takeaway. Each of those steps also re-centralizes trust, moving it away from the protocol itself and back into the hands of a handful of companies. All right, so let's pull all these threads together and bring this thing home. With this new understanding, how can we create a more accurate, more honest definition of what a blockchain or a distributed ledger actually is? This is maybe the most powerful and concise summary I've ever come across. Blockchains distribute authority, not understanding. The power to validate is spread out, but the complete knowledge, the full understanding of the entire system, that's highly concentrated. So if you want the honest but, let's say, less catchy definition, it's this: a system with distributed consensus authority and selectively replicated state. Yeah, you can kind of see why distributed ledger won the marketing battle, huh? This means we have to completely redefine what trust means in this context. The system is not trustless. It's trust that has been shifted. It's been moved away from traditional institutions and towards incentives. It's shifted from central authorities to that vigilant minority, and from trusting people to trusting math. And that right there, that's the quiet genius of the whole design. The system works, not because all of us are constantly checking everything. No, it works because someone always might. The mere possibility that one person in that paranoia minority will check the work is what keeps the entire system honest. It's both brilliant and a little bit fragile when you think about it. Which leaves us with this final unresolved tension, doesn't it? What we've built is a ledger that everyone is asked to believe in, but that almost no one truly knows firsthand. A system that was designed to escape mythology, that, in the end, might just rely on a new myth of its own. Definitely something to think about.